So Anne has asked me to facilitate, so since she's having some trouble, so I'll go ahead and begin. We'll give it another 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so for people to jump in. So, and Anne said if you have to leave it at 8:30, then she asked you to be tighter back down towards 7 minutes to allow time for questions. So
Will do. And you just let me know when you want me to start, Bill.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. So welcome to the intersection on this Thursday. We have our guest with us today, Maria Villagomez from the city of San Antonio, who's going to talk about the city's budget process. She has a presentation for us. Before I'm facilitating on behalf of Anne Helmke, she is on the call today, but she is having some technical difficulties, so I'm stepping in for her. Before we begin, I'd want to give maybe 2 minutes if there are any community announcements or other comments that people want to make.
Well, Bill, I want to make sure everybody knows about the Pathways to Hope conference. It's August 24th and 25th. That's a week from tomorrow at the Tobin Center. I put a link in the chat for registration. It's free. We have great panels on Uvalde, youth mental health, how we're going to talk about redeveloping the SASH campus for housing, and housing is health. Many more panels. Go to the website, www.pathwaystohope.net. You can register, and you can also see the agenda, and we hope to see everybody out there.
And just a quick correction, Doug, the dates are 25th and 26th, as Anne
Thank you.
added in the chat.
Yeah, 25th and 26th.
So that's a great conference. For those of you that haven't been, it's a plenary sessions as well as breakout sessions, and there's a great expo or resource table set up, and so it's a great opportunity to get involved and find out what's going on in the mental health space. Anyone else? All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Maria, it's all yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I am going to share my screen and just checking that you are able to see it.
We are, thank you.
Great. So the city manager proposed the budget last week to the city council, and we are, and I don't see, can you see my screen? It seems like it froze.
We can see your screen, but it says you're at the end of the slideshow, so maybe you need to back up a little bit. There you go.
Good point. Okay, so our city manager proposed a budget to council last week, and the priorities that we're focusing on this year include homeless outreach and encampment, streets, infrastructure, affordable housing, animal care services, and police. These priorities came from two sources. One, we did a scientific survey, and these were the priorities submitted by the community, and also we did a city council goal setting session in April. So that's how this top priorities came about for our budget. The total city budget for this year is $3.7 billion, is roughly about 9% higher than the current year. And you'll see the main components are general fund being the largest fund of the city, our restricted funds, and our capital program. And what I'm going to focus on primarily today is the general fund, which is where we fund most of our basic services. The outer circle in this chart tells you where the money comes from: your property taxes, payment from CPS, sales tax, and then we have other resources like EMS, transport fees, traffic fines, etc. The way the money is invested, or how we spend it, about 60.8% goes to police and fire, so public safety, followed by public works and parks. And then you see a slew of about 30 different departments, including the library, human services, neighborhood and housing services, delegate agencies that are also funded by the general fund. Overall, our general fund budget is also growing. It's a 5.3% increase over the current year and a total of 1.6 billion. Now, we divided what we're proposing to the council for consideration for approval in terms of new things in the budget in 4 categories: providing property tax relief to our residents, keeping San Antonio safe, enhancing quality of life, and improving customer services. In terms of property tax, and I've shared this with this group before, the city of San Antonio makes up about 21% of the total tax bill that a individual pays here in San Antonio. The growth on the left-hand side of this chart, you see our values grew a total of 7.4%. Base values, which are 16 properties, 5.3, and the new growth. So this is why we're collecting more revenue, because our values are growing. Nonetheless, we're decreasing slightly the property tax rate. And also the city council approved back in June that we increase the homestead exemption for property owners from 10% to 20%. We're maintaining the exemptions for seniors and disabled at $85,000. We continue to freeze property taxes for those individuals over the age of 65. And then we have a new program that you may want to share with your network. It's called San Antonio Volunteer Exemption for Seniors. So the program is going to open to 300 seniors, and if they volunteer with the city, they can receive up to a $400 credit on their property taxes. That is allowed by state law. So now I'm going to shift to some of the things that we're adding in the budget. Animal care services has been top priority. Unfortunately, after the death of Mr. Najera in District 5, that he was killed by two dogs, there's been a lot of conversation about animal care services. So we're increasing their total budget by close to $6 million, and we're adding 29 positions. Now I'm going to show you the breakdown of those positions. Some positions are going to be dedicated to resolve bite cases. Today, it takes us about 30 hours to get to a case. With the additional positions, we're going to reduce that. And we're also going to be able to add a couple of positions to make sure that dangerous dogs, the owners, are in compliance with state law to get us to increase our compliance as well. We're also adding additional positions to respond to calls. So animal care services gets on average 80 to 95,000 calls, stray dogs, information, etc. Of those, roughly about 50,000 are what we call critical calls: aggressive dogs, neglect, and cruelty. Today, we're only getting to about, for every 10 calls, we're only getting to about 4 of those calls. So there's a lot of frustration with the community. So we are going to be adding positions to get us to 64%, and over 3 years, as we continue doing investments, we'll get to 100% of the calls. I'm switching now to the fire department. We're adding a new EMS unit, and we're also adding additional firefighters for operational support. In the area of police, we're recommending 105 new police officers, 100 to be dedicated to patrol. And the goal is to add 360 officers over 5 years. And we'll also adding instructors to our academy to be able to recruit and graduate more individuals. In terms of homeless, the homeless area, through our ARPA funds, the city council is considering approving roughly about $15 million for a low barrier shelter, a hotel that we will lease for 2 years to provide immediate assistance to homeless individuals. We are also adding some resources to address prevention. Roughly, we're estimating that we can divert 300 individuals from becoming homeless by providing some financial assistance. Our goal next year is to shelter 400 individuals that are unsheltered today by this low barrier shelter I mentioned and other housing units, and also being more proactive on addressing encampments. Today, annually this year, we're estimating to address 500 encampments. We are proposing to do 700 next year. I'm going to switch now to affordable housing. Our budget is about 5.3 million more than the current year, so a total of 41.2 million. And we're continuing with the strategic housing implementation plan to get to more affordable housing units. Also, under quality of life for animal care services, we're adding resources to do more spay and neuter surgeries in the community, to rescue, increase the fees that we pay, or increase what we pay to our rescue partners from $84 an average to $200, so they can rescue more pets, and also increase our adoptions as well by adding some positions to ACS. Very quickly, under street maintenance, we continue our commitment to street reconstruction. We're increasing our funding to pavement markings. You probably see some of our markings fade pretty quickly. We paint them every 5 years, so we're gonna switch to a 3-year cycle. Sidewalks has been a big issue for our community. We're dedicating more dollars for repairs, about 7 million compared to 1 million this year, and continue to build sidewalks across the community. In customer service, we're adding 3 positions for 311 to do a better job in getting back to our community quicker and providing more information about the status of their request. And then for a new program that we're going to brief council this morning, our Good Neighbor program, to address those in residential properties that called 911 or 311 12 or more times over a 90-day window. Is a multi-departmental coordinated approach, and the goal is either connect to services if somebody has, for instance, we're experiencing individuals with mental health issues, or enforcement if somebody has excessive code violations. We're also adding an attorney to our dangerous assessment response team. Something that you may be interested, our enhanced library card that serves as a form of ID when somebody may encounter the police department, is recognized as an official form of ID. We are going to be expanding services to all of our 29 branches of the library, and also improving how the card looks. Finally, for solid waste, we are recommending, the only increase we have in the budget is a fee increase to the monthly fee that you pay for your garbage. The small card, there will be no increase. The medium card will increase $1 per month, and the large card will increase to $3.49 per month. Everybody gets charged an environmental fee and solid waste, and we're recommending to increase that by $1.26, and that is just to help us maintain our current level of service. So this is our final slide. This is just where we are in the process. As I mentioned, the city manager presented August the 10th. We're doing community town halls across the city. We'll be completing that process next week. We have also council budget work sessions that started this week, and will continue until mid-September. We also have 2 public hearings at council chambers on August the 30th and September 7th on the budget and the property tax rate, and finally budget adoption on the 14th. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Maria. So if anyone has any questions, then just raise your hand and jump in. Peter, you want to start?
Yes. Thank you, Maria, for the presentation. Always grateful for your work with the city and the budget process. I know it's a big lift, but the community engagement is just great. My question is very specific. We have a more recent group. It's the Environmental Collaborative of San Antonio. It was birthed out of this group, And we're really looking at the REIS fund. And I know this is the second year in the budget of the REIS fund. And if the question is about how it's being developed, I know that the educational component was rolled out this, and REIS is the Resiliency, Energy Efficiency, and Sustainability Fund. And I know it's really targeting the CAP goals. That fund did education on the first round, and it's going to be going to nonprofits now. So my question is, what's the process by which the criteria is being developed? What committee is, or who's giving direction to that process? I know this public engagement part, I know it's one small piece of the budget, but just like to know a little bit more. And my reason for asking is that the group is looking at how we could seek funds for nonprofits locally that can leverage the IRA funding that's coming into the community. And I know part of that REIS has that leveraging piece. So there's like the nonprofit, then there's a leveraging piece. We're trying to connect those dots.
Maria, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I put something on the screen that I hope you can see. To address your question, the REIS fund is 11.9 million for next fiscal year, and you see the breakout that we're going to recommend to the council. There's grants to community organizations of 2.5 million. I don't know the exact committee that this is going to go to. That is something I can follow up and provide that to Ann so she can share with you. We are going to be presenting this to the city council in the upcoming weeks to get more into the details, but I'm happy to share that through Ann. I just don't know the committee and the process for those grants, but we'll get that to you.
Okay, and just my input on that regarding the fund is I would hope that they would prioritize the impact to the most vulnerable and still be able to achieve the CAP goals. So that's my feedback for that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Doug, did you have a question?
Yes, a couple questions. How many new SA Core units will there be, and what is the total? And what is their deployment going to be? And secondly, how many new mental health unit officers will there be out of those 100 new officers that you're going to recruit? And are you going to change the protocol on mental health calls towards a Denver Star model where patrol units are not the first response?
Thank you, Doc, for that question. So for the benefit of the group, SA Core is a team that is comprised of a mental health clinician, a paramedic, and a police officer. We added one team last year. It's been in operation since April of 2022. We're adding 2 additional teams for a total of 3. Those 2 teams will come online on January 1, and we're going to divide the city in 3. We'll have a team covering north, a team covering the central part of the city, and another team covering the south area of the city. Now, we added police officers, paramedics, and health clinicians to do 3 things. 1, they respond to 911 calls directly. Number 2, they provide assistance to the individual with the goal of reducing arrest and detentions as much as possible. And 3, they do follow-up, the clinicians do. They continue to engage with that resident to be able to connect them to services, which is our primary goal. So that's what we're doing. In addition to that group, the police department has a mental health unit that I think the Doc was referring to. We are not adding additional officers out of the 105. The 100 are going directly to patrol, and then 5 are going to the academy. With that said, we started this year additional training for all the patrol officers, the same training that the mental health unit receives, so they have more tools to be able to address individuals who are facing mental health issues. And Doug, I think that was the 3rd question, and I think I missed it.
The Denver Star model, where it's a community response model where the patrol units are not the first called, but they have a layered call with community response units and then the mental health units.
Thank you. We are not considering that right now. Right now, the goal is to continue to enhance core. And when the SA core responds to a call, the clinician is the first one to engage, and the police officer is just there to provide security. They wear polo shirts, so they're not in uniform, so it's less intimidating. The vehicle they drive is not a police vehicle. So we are going to continue with that program, and we'll continue to evaluate. It's not off the question, but not something that we are doing this upcoming fiscal year.
I just want to say that representing probably the largest constituency of people with mental health issues in our community, NAMI advocates for the Denver Star program and not using a protocol of calling in patrol units first unless there's a weapon that's been reported on this, at the scene. It works in Denver in over 30,000 calls. It's cheaper than sending a patrol unit out. So it's better service, better outcomes, and less expensive. And I'd like for you to rethink your approach.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Anne had a comment in the chat. We put we listed the five priority areas that Maria had in her presentation in the chat. If you missed those, you can read those to see if it spurs a question. And Anne's comment is, how we spend and invest funds is a reflection of our values. This is true for the individuals and families as well as for the entire city. And so she offers that as some insight for all of us to garner questions. She also has a question, Maria. This comes from Anne. She says, the upcoming board budget forums, does the community have some sort of chance to direct the budget, or are those simply informational sessions?
No, the public has an opportunity to make changes to what we have proposed. This is the proposed budget as we staff are presenting it to the community and also to the city council. As part of the process that I explained, there's 2 sessions that are dedicated for budget amendments. So things that you are advocating for, you can share those with us as we compile the input from the community. And additionally, you can talk to your council member representative to advocate for changes to the budget. But there's always those 2 sessions where we make changes to what is proposed. So
going through their council member, if somebody has a particular interest, that's where they need to focus.
Yes.
One question in the chat, and then we'll go to Lauren. Question in the chat from Patricia Castillo was, has anything happened to continue addressing domestic violence more effectively?
Yes, Patricia, good morning. One of the things that we are adding with this budget is, one, we're continuing the programs that we created a year ago and 2 years ago in terms of adding more positions to our crisis response teams and our advocates and case managers. So that funding continues. We are also adding more funding through our delegate agencies. We're awarding more funds to those agencies to continue with the domestic violence initiatives that we have laid out, that the council has laid out, as well as the work that we're doing through the CCDV, which is assistance for legal services and navigation of services for those individuals that need assistance when it comes to domestic violence.
Thank you for that. Lauren Deal, did you have a question?
Deal, San Antonio Food Bank. I just wanted to, if you could speak a little bit to emergency response and how that's built into our budget. I know we're coming up on hurricane season, and that can affect us via evacuees. And then I know the increase in wildfires are a concern for many. So if you could speak to where that fits into the budget this year and maybe how you all have developed it as it's become more prominent.
Thank you, Lauren. So emergency management falls under the fire department. Specifically, what we're adding in the budget is roughly about $13 million to do additional infrastructure improvements and have more infrastructure on city facilities, specifically generators. So if there's case where we lose power, that we can continue providing services to the community. One thing that I would love to come back to this group, is we have heard interest from religious organizations primarily and some nonprofits. We have resiliency centers the city sets up whenever there's specifically a cold event. And we have 4 that are designated. We are going to add 2 more, I believe, if my memory serves me right. But we're also going to offer funding for organizations that want to have a resiliency center in a church, for example, or a school. What we would be providing would be the resources to do it. We only are asking, well, not only, but if we are wanting those facilities, if possible, to have a backup generator so they lose power, that they can continue to provide services, and also to provide the staffing and security, because that's something we just don't have enough resources for everyone. That presentation is going to go to council next Wednesday. And we're going to lay out more the things that we're doing in terms of dealing with flooding and dealing with the cold weather, and now the heat, which is now 2 years in a row that we're experiencing this heat. We have our cooling centers across the city, but I think there's going to be more that we're going to have to do that we were not envisioning that when we laid out the $13 million investment.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria.
So thank you to all of you. Maria, you said you had to you have a hard stop at 8:30. I think
Yes.
you said. Okay, well, thank you. So we're right on that. So we have probably time for one more question. Anne has one question, which she says she has there are many congregations that have interacted with her about setting up resiliency centers. So if congregations, and there are many faith communities represented on this call, so if there is interest in congregations pursuing that, what's their best avenue to make that happen?
Well, first of all, I'm looking at the question in the chat. I can come back and I'll confirm with you, but probably next week. We are right now developing the plan that we're going to lay out to the council next Wednesday on how we can engage the nonprofit organizations. So I'll be able to share that criteria with you all.
Great. Anne says you're already booked for next Thursday on the intersection. So
okay.
So we'll have a repeat of this session. So,
and I will bring with me our emergency management coordinator, Brian Norris, who is actually the individual in charge, if that's okay with the group.
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
So I'll have one last question in the last 2 minutes that we have with you today. So you listed your 5 top priorities on the beginning of your slide, but can you give us what are the next 3? So this is the bulk of the budget, but this is not the only work that's being done in our community. So what would you say are 6, 7, and 8 on the priority list?
One of the things we're focusing on is parks and recreation. For those of you that go to our parks, you probably see a lot of the playgrounds that don't have a shade structure, and with this heat has become a necessity. In total, we have about 61 parks that need structure for the playgrounds. So we have a 5-year program. We're going to start in 2024 to be able to build those structures for all of our playground facilities. We also going to be working with neighborhoods if they're interested on activating vacant lots as green spaces. So that's another program that is in parks. So that's another priority. On the libraries, we're adding more resources for materials. So we have updated collection for our residents. So we're doing investments there on the library. And let me see, what else are we doing?
Well, we've got one last question from
Sure.
Kimberly Carpenter. Kendra, if you want to ask your question, you've got 15 seconds.
I just wanted to know how you find out about the program with the vacant lots.
Yes.
Is that on?
Sure. I don't have those details yet. Our parks department, and I'll send the information to Anne. They're gonna be making a presentation, so we should have the details there, so that way individuals can get engaged on the green spaces.
That'd be awesome. I don't know if Anne's gonna try to feature that, but that would be really awesome to find out about that. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Maria, do you have any closing comments for us?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to coming back next week.
All right, well, thank you again. It's always very informative to have you here at the intersection with us. So thank you for your time.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
So we have so it's 8:30, so this is the scheduled end of the intersection. So, but we usually stick around for a little additional conversation. So if you have an opportunity to stay, or you're welcome to stay. If you need to go, then we understand if as you leave to engage on your day. So I'll open it up now if there's any other comments or discussion. Just anybody who wants to offer something can just jump in.
Wanted to say hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all in the meeting and be at the meeting. I was doing summer camp with about 200 kids all summer long, and we just got done. So it's nice to be back and see y'all.
Thank you for coming back again. So Sacred has an exciting announcement. We may have talked about it a little bit last week, but we'll be starting a project with the City of San Antonio Neighborhood and Housing Services Division around collecting and documenting and sharing resources around housing services beyond finding a place to live. So today we're calling it the Housing Services Portal. We may come up with a catchier name at some point, but that's what we're starting with. So we'll be starting that work probably in the next few weeks, and we expect it to take about 6 months to be complete. But if you work in the housing space and you would like to be part of an advisory committee around this, we're putting one together. So please, you can contact me, bill.neely@sacred.org if you are interested in participating with that. And we'll be putting more information out about that as we begin. Anne has a comment in the chat that Mayor Nurnberg received the Humanitarian Award last night from the International Charter of Compassion at the Parliament of World Religions. So that's an exciting thing for our mayor, who seems to have developed a much higher national and international profile over the last few months, which can only be good for the city, unless he gets tapped into a cabinet position and leaves. Then that's maybe less good for the city. So anyone else have thoughts?
I just put in the chat that we're having a symposium on Sunday on safety, security, and anti-Semitism, and we have 10 different speakers and presentations. It starts at 2:00. Take a look if there's anything you're interested in. The registration is free, and you're welcome to join us. There's going to be an active threat training, a stop the bleed training, and a lot of interesting conversations as well. There's going to be a presentation on elder fraud and online scams and abuse that's costing billions of dollars a year. And if anybody has an elderly parent or relative, you've probably heard of some of these scams that they've experienced. And there's even going to be a training on how to avoid falls, which is one of the biggest risks for elderly people. If they have a fall, it can be catastrophic. So some things for the elderly, some things for talking to young children about hate. So it's like a whole mix of speakers and sessions.
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, can you put that information back in the chat for how to get more details? Thanks.
Anyone else want to share? So, well, if that's all we have for today, then we'll be ending a few minutes earlier than our usual session. So I appreciate you coming, and on behalf of Anne, who is here with us and active in the chat but unable to speak out loud, I thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week at the intersection.